Greetings, Scorpio and Scorpio rising. This is your Western forecast for June 2024. The two big themes are finance, joint ventures, loans, taxes. Could be some financial gifts, some lottery winnings. Of course, that's very rare. Or coming into an inheritance. The inheritance, the financial gifts, would be a fortunate expanse of Jupiter moving into Gemini the end of May 2024 into the beginning of June 2025. The 8th house has to do with legacies and financial gifts, and Jupiter is all this prosperity and luck. The other big sector of the chart that's being triggered is legal matters to higher education, marketing, teaching. These are all keywords of the 9th house. Now, before I break all this down, if you enjoy these kinds of videos and would like to see more of them, click like and subscribe. And don't forget to click on the notification bell so you can receive the latest postings. And if you go into the description box underneath the video, you'll find direct links to book an astrology reading or to sign up for or to request my 2-question offer. All right. Every June, the sun's in Gemini. In fact, it goes into Gemini the last week of May through the first 3 weeks of June. Where the sun is shining is where your priorities and attention is drawn to. Gemini is 8 signs past Scorpio. The 8th sector is very complicated because it can be dealing with wealth and power and sexuality and transformation and the occult. That is because Scorpio is the 8th sign of the zodiac. And to have the sun shining in Gemini for you, it's lighting up all these areas of Scorpio that you are more comfortable with than the average person. Mercury is what is on your mind. What are you curious about? What are you thinking? Mercury is in Gemini the first 2 weeks of June. Venus, what you value, what you appreciate. Venus is the power of attraction. Venus is in that 8th house the first 2 weeks of June. And then, of course, expansive, fortunate Jupiter is bringing all these 8th house opportunities for 1 year. Now, one of the big themes of the 8th house are negotiating financial contracts, setting up a business partnerships, seeking out grants, loans, investors. The 8th house has a lot to do with a lot of financial joint ventures. And the sun is lighting this up. Mercury is what you're negotiating. Venus, it helps bring in compromise and harmony. And Jupiter brings all this luck and prosperity. The 8th house also deals with the underworld because Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. In mythology, Pluto's the lord of the underworld. The underworld is death and rebirth and transformation, psychology, and the occult. So I'll get back to that in a moment. Mercury, Venus, and the sun will move out of Gemini and your 8th house and move into Cancer, which is a water sign compatible with Scorpio, a water sign. So these 3 planets are shifting into Cancer by the middle of June. into the first part of July. Now, the sun will be there in Cancer from June the 20th to July the 20th. The Cancer energy is focusing your attention on ninth house matters. The ninth house could be long distance traveling, higher education, marketing, publishing. But with that strong eighth house, and then the Jupiter is holding that eighth house energies for a year, one of the things the eighth house can be focusing on are joint ventures and business partnerships and business and contract negotiations. Bringing in the ninth house, this could be with negotiating a publishing contract or setting up an online business where there could be a lot of contracts, or any kind of major financial negotiations, business contracts, often will bring in a lawyer. That's the ninth house. Make sure everything is on the up and up and legal. Now, the psychology, transformation, and the occult. You might, and with Jupiter there, and Jupiter seeks knowledge, so what could be jump-started in the first part of June with a curiosity about therapy, psychology, astrology, because that's all under that occult, is an interest, you're being drawn to those areas. And then the ninth house, and interestingly enough, Jupiter is the natural ruler of the ninth house, because Jupiter seeks education. And having Mercury, Venus, and the Sun going into Cancer at the last half, the ninth house can be dealing with higher education. So you might be some of you might be deciding to go back and get a psychology degree, or starting to professionally study astrology. Or you could take that eighth house of business, partnerships, negotiations, finance, but with the ninth house of psychology, astrology. But the ninth house also deals with media and marketing. That could mean that those of you who are into maybe wanting to become a professional astrologer, or to be a life coach, or somehow using your psychology degree, that ninth house could be all the promotion and marketing and online business. So you'd be using social media to promote your life coach business, your astrology business. Now, Mars, ambitious, assertive Mars, was in Aries, as I talked about last month, from May the 1st till June the 8th. Aries is 6 signs past Scorpio. The sixth house can be dealing with work matters, and with Mars, a very busy work period, or a lot of wanting to just be alone or left alone to do your work. Sixth house, you got to be also careful about, except we're wrapping it up, by June the 8th. And Mars is in Aries only once every 2 years. Got to be careful about accidents or injuries. But on June the 8th, now assertive Mars goes into Taurus. June the 8th to July the 20th, once every 2 years. Taurus is exact opposite Scorpio. The opposite deals with professional or personal relationships. With Mars, you could be feeling this drive and passion to interact with others, to form partnerships, becoming really, on a personal level, really attracted to somebody, and then you're really going after to meet them. But Mars can be argumentative, and in the 7th house of relationships, this could be an irritable, arguing period. But traditionally, Mars doesn't break up a relationship. It's actually, I've said this many times, it can be a positive because Mars wants to bring any resentment, irritability that's below the surface and bring it out into the open. In other words, have this big blow up, but not to break up, to clear the air and start fresh again. Now, the new moon in Gemini on June the 6th is putting your attention on all those 8th house matters I've already discussed. But this new moon is at 16 Gemini, 30 degrees in a sign, and relational cooperative Venus is at 16 Gemini. Now, that was all there was with Venus. Then it put a real emphasis on love and beauty and creativity. Problem is that taskmaster Saturn will be at 19 Pisces, squaring or throwing this limiting aspect to the Venus. So there's a lot of, with Venus, Saturn, and Venus in the 8th house of finance and joint ventures, there could be a lot of worrying about money, or that financial negotiations could be going really slow. That 8th house, where the Venus, the new moon, that 8th house also can represent intimacy, very intimate relationships that with the Saturn are being tested and could be fighting over money. That's the 8th house of joint ventures, because also Mars, warrior Mars, will be transiting through the 7th house of partnerships. 2 weeks after the new moon is the full moon on the 21st. So a day before, a couple of days afterwards, is when that full moon could be triggering a lot of emotional reactions. It's at 1 degree of Capricorn that falls in your 3rd house of sales, negotiations, interviews. It's that 3rd house of meetings and ideas. It's going to be opposite Mercury and Venus. Opposite is the interacting in negotiations and discussions. With Mercury, could be all these negotiating, lots of discussions. With the Venus, it's bringing in this compromise and more peace, so things don't get too crazy. But with the full moon in the 3rd house and the Mercury Venus are in the 9th house, the 3rd house, 9th house are opposite each other. So they're two sides of the same coin. 3rd house, 9th house axis has a lot to do with education, selling, learning, marketing. So that's what's going on. And maybe that's the time around the 21st that some of you might be deciding to go back to school to learn astrology or psychology. Now, with that Mars in the 7th and the new moon in the 8th, that could really reveal secrets. If you or your partner is lying or cheating, it's all going to come out, and it's going to really test the relationship, no kidding. But the Mars in the 7th could be the fighting, but it could also be clearing of the decks. And lastly, which I think I've mentioned, the 8th house is the house of death, transformation, legacies. And having Jupiter once every 12 years in the 8th house can bring inheritance, can bring financial windfalls and gifts. And then I mentioned lotteries. It's that 8th house are these financial gifts. Jupiter, I would, to win the lottery is like the chances of being hit by lightning twice, But if you don't play, you don't win. And for Scorpios and Scorpio rising in general, for the next year, that Jupiter in your 8th house could be some unexpected lucky winnings, or maybe getting an inheritance, or maybe if you're applying for a loan or a grant, you're more prone to get it. I want to thank you for watching. If you like information on how to book an astrology reading or check out my 2-question offer, visit my website at gardino.go. That's .co. Until next month, be safe and well.